What's good, y'all? It's your boy J.Brock. It's Clapitup LA. I'm right here with Bryan Sallis. I mean, this is an incredible dude right here. He is the king of quotes, as stated by Curtis King. He is a manager, executive producer, consultant, A&R, and he is extremely passionate about being sure to bring the proper respect to the West Coast that we need, y'all. Bryan Sallis, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Oh man, it's a complete pleasure. I couldn't wait to kick game with you, man. So look, check this out. Bryan Sallis, where did you grow up at?
So I've traveled all over Southern California, but my origins start in Leimert Park with my mom, who was a single mom. Most people don't know this. She had me at 17, turned 8. She was 18, a month after I was born, living on her own and whatnot. And we lived in Leimert Park for a few years, then moved to Hollywood. So I lived in Hollywood for several years, and then from there, Santa Monica, Manhattan Beach, and then all the way out to Rancho Cucamonga from 6th grade to senior year. I was in Rancho Cucamonga at the IE, and before I went to college at Long Beach State.
What was your experience like in Rancho Cucamonga? Because we saw it on Next Friday. That was all.
Yeah, it was funny. It's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm one of those people. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not necessarily like proud to necessarily be from there. I'm not a fan of suburban culture. I'm more of a fan of urban city culture. But at the time, it was definitely the right decision my parents made. Housing was crazy in the LA market, so that's where they could afford a home. Plus, it moved me away from very, elements in other, neighborhoods that we were, I had access to and whatnot. So it gave me the opportunity to just be like a kid, get an education, for the most part, stay out of trouble, things like that. So as an adult, I appreciated the decision they made. As a kid, I thought it was terrible. It sucked. I moved away from my friends. Rancho was kind of like whack. It's not. There's no culture, there and whatnot. But I appreciated it more, especially when I became a parent later in life. Like the sacrifices you make for your kids and things like that. So I always honored their commitment and their sacrifice to be the best person I could be and whatnot, and not do like knucklehead shit, because they made that sacrifice so I could get an education, be safe and whatnot. And I've always tried to make really good decisions because they gave me that foundation.
Well, we typically never understand why our parents do what they do when we're young. It always takes us to become parents first. So do you think that it saved you from getting into the streets?
100%.
Okay.
100%. So my grandmother, when she left the army in the early 60s, when she had my mom, she came to LA. So my family originates from Central California, right? She went to the army, got pregnant, came back to LA and bought a home on 7th Ave, so around 7th Ave and Slauson.
Oh yeah.
But they were one of the first like black families in the neighborhood at that point. That's when the neighborhood was starting to change, right? So if you know where 7th Ave is and whatnot. So my mom's elementary school was 59th Elementary School, the same one that Nipsey went to. Had my family stayed there,
oh man,
I would have for sure been
from the influences, he would have got sucked in.
Undoubtedly, you know what I'm saying? So my mom moved into Leimert Park and whatnot, and then my grandparents they moved from there too, and then they moved to Hollywood, and so I missed that. You know what I'm saying? That whole story that so many of us get caught up in. I missed that. And so I was very fortunate that I was able to avoid that and just be like a regular kid, just kind of have a very middle class experience.
Okay, so like towards middle school, you were already gone. Like by the time you got to high school, did you start hearing about things happening to your friends from LA?
Well, yeah. So I was the Rodney King verdict and the riots happened at that time. So, I was able to witness a lot of stuff happening and whatnot. And, we were like not affected at all, out there. You know what I'm saying?
You a whole different world over there.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like they tried to have some precautions and whatnot, but it didn't trickle that far out there. And so, I could watch that and see like what was really like, kind of, going on and whatnot. But I didn't really have a real like LA experience like that until I became an adult and whatnot, and being in the music scene and whatnot. I put myself in in the city, in these neighborhoods and whatnot, built real relationships. And because my family originated from there, I had the sense of history of the Black experience in LA and whatnot. And so I was able to kind of like take that information, then my new, young adult experiences, and then form, my own LA experiences. I got you
100%. Now, you ended up going to Cal State Long Beach. Shout out to Cal State Long Beach.
Yes, 49er. I don't know if they're 49ers now.
Banging on us,
but, you know what I'm saying? But they're the 49ers.
No. I think they might be. You know what? They had a football team back then. They don't have it no more.
They don't have it no more, yeah.
That's so unfortunate they got rid of the football teams at our Cal States. But how was your experience at Cal State Long Beach, and how did that impact your basically your role in life today?
Well, the thing about going to Long Beach at the time is I had no relationship to the city of Long Beach. I had to make a decision about where I was going to go to college. And you have to understand, in my family, on my mom's side of the family, I was the first person in our family to start and finish college, the very first, right? So, but I didn't have like great ambition for college, so like I didn't even like want to try to get into like a UCLA or USC or anything like that. I'm always been more of an efficient person. Like, what's the least amount of work I can do for the greatest?
I feel that. I'm like that.
So when I saw the admission process to the Cal State, it's like, yeah, I'm going that route. You know what I'm saying? I went to Long Beach State because one of my oldest friends that I grew up with, he was going to Long Beach State as well. And so I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll go to Long Beach State. I had no, like I said, relationship to the city or the school. But what it did was it moved me from, the IE down to, to Long Beach. And I got my education and whatnot. And I got to, the thing is I got to finally be around more diversity, right? Because I grew up in the IE, which doesn't have much diversity. I got to see like real diversity, and anyone who's been in Long Beach knows it's a very actually diverse community.
Did that feel good to you to be able to be in such a mixture?
Well, I didn't know that I wanted it, right?
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that I wanted it, and I experienced it. I'm like, this is like amazing, right? And I could see, and then, by then, Snoop and the Dog Pound and whatnot were, the biggest artists in the world. So I'm hearing these stories of Long Beach and whatnot, and I'm going to those neighborhoods, I'm going to those cities, like getting my haircut, at Bobby Neal's on PCH and MLK, and I'm like, oh, this is where, the Twins shot their video and things like that, and I'm seeing it and whatnot, and I'm experiencing, the actual city, the culture of the city, and tying it into what the music was at the time and whatnot. And so it was definitely like the foundation of a lot of stuff that I do today. And I still, reside in Long Beach, raise my kids there, things like that. I think it's a great, great community.
Did you ever stop at the city store that Snoop Dogg had there, I believe?
No, I never pulled up there.
Okay. Now what is a moment that you cherish till this day that you can think back on being in Long Beach at that time in your life?
So like my college years. What's funny is I don't have a lot of memories that I like cherish because I have this weird relationship with higher education and whatnot. Like, it's important, go to college, stay in school, kids, but it's not for everybody and whatnot. And you literally are looking at people like, you shouldn't be here. You're not committed to what's going on here. And like, and then you look at other people like, oh, you're making way too much of what this is. It's not that important. You know what I'm saying? There's so much more to life. And so, you're seeing, the dichotomy of the two ends of the spectrum and whatnot. And, for me, it was really like my first introduction to, people starting something, but very few of them finishing it.
Exactly.
And I started to learn the process of completion. You know what I'm saying? I think the greatest thing that I learned in college was starting something for yourself and finishing it.
Well, see, that's good that you learned that because, see, my thing is this: the world has changed now. We don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful nowadays. No. But my thing is, if you go to college, at least use those years to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? If nothing else, at least find that out.
Well, and what I took away more than anything, and what I told my own children is, it's about the people you meet and how things that I learned is the people you meet and those relationships that you form, right? Because you tend to have a lot of those relationships going forward and whatnot. And that's why you see people in fraternities and sororities and things like that. It leads to their professional networks. But the other thing is you learn how to navigate systems that aren't set up for your success.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't. Here's the thing: they don't care if you finish or not. They don't care if you come to class.
Exactly.
They just want their money every semester
Right.
or quarter, whatever you go to, right?
Right.
And they don't give a fuck about what else you do. And it's like you don't. And you go to the counselor, and they're like, "Yeah, it's whatever. You know, you can do this. Like this, no one cares." It's like, "Oh man, like you guys don't even care if I like finish. You just take my money, and I'm just like, you know, a social security number."
Right,
like,
right.
And I realized, oh, you have to really in life. You have to show up for yourself.
That's
Because
it.
the rest of the rest of the world does not care what you do.
Exactly.
You
And
can be
that's-
successful, you could
yeah.
fall off. Yeah, it's whatever.
Exactly.
It's up to you. And that's what I really learned from college. Like, oh, you got to go in and like, you know, be about yourself and accomplishing this opportunity, get what you can out of it, learn what you can, but get these relationships, but understand that, you know, this is setting you up for like the world of you gotta take care of yourself and pull up, you know, and show up for yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, and that's crazy because a lot of people are. I hear DJHED talk about this entitlement. You know what I'm saying? And when you get there, like you said, and you realize that, you get rid of entitlement because you got to understand this, man. This is the real world. I care about me and me only. You know what I'm saying? Or me and my family. What you got going on doesn't matter. So, do you think that you faced any of those situations where it was like, okay, I get this. This ain't even about me. This is all about you.
Oh, of course.
And how do you handle those situations?
Well, you know, when you're first confronted with that, because as humans we're naturally like self-absorbed and we think the sun rotates around us. We always think it's about us.
Right.
It's like, oh,
right.
you know, you're doing this to me, and as age and maturity and experience, you realize a lot of what you think is about you is never really about you. It's
Exactly.
like, oh, it's about you and what you're projecting and what you're going through and things like that. And then it's how I'm now receiving and encoding that. You know what I'm saying? And you realize that's more of what's going on. But when you're younger, you know, you're just experiencing these things and you think, you know, things are happening to you and whatnot. And you realize things are just happening.
Yeah, right.
Things are just happening, and you just happen to be in the frame of the shot of things happening and whatnot. It's not always like about you.
Yeah. True. And that's something that I feel like is very important to make sure we teach our kids. You know, just understand the world is not fair. Don't give up. You just got to keep going.
I tell my girl all the time. I said one thing. I said I've never told you guys that life is fair. I said you just got to like do your best. You know, be your best. And more times than not, you'll probably have a positive outcome. Right.
Yeah, well, you spend most of your life kicking doors down and fighting and clawing for what you want. Now, 2007 was the start of Magnet Music.
Yes.
How was the beginning of that for you, and what drove you to actually start your own situation?
Well, so earlier than that, I had a relationship with a high school friend of mine who was one of the most, to this day, one of the most talented MCs I've ever known, right? Okay. And we had started a company, and you know, we were like everybody else. We were gonna do the Jay-Z, Dame Dash, you know, Rockefeller thing, right?
The biggest.
That's what, you know, that was the inspiration and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, doing the business to all of he was doing as an artist and whatnot. And one of my early life lessons is I realized that he actually later on I realized he just wasn't a good person and whatnot.
Okay.
just in general, he just was just a terrible human being. Yeah. So that meant the business was bad. He took advantage of me and whatnot. And so in leaving that, so I had to end the friendship and end the business, right? And in leaving that, I was like, but I still had the passion for music. I realized I wasn't passionate about helping him. I was just passionate about helping people in music. Right. So I started my own company, you know, Magnet Music, so I could be like I could run my own ship, run my own play, run my own agenda and whatnot. And, you know, there was this kid that I met at a studio out in Rancho Cucamonga, and he was actually a kid from Watts, but he was living in like Colton or, you know, Rialto, one of those cities. But he just happened to, you know, like pull up to this one particular studio to get some information. Met him, struck up a friendship. He was young. His name was HB, and I put together a whole album with him and put that out back in 2007, because that was always like my goal is I just wanted to put out music and executive produce and have my own label and things like that. And then a lot of life stuff happened to me. Not too long after that, I went through a divorce with my ex-wife and whatnot, which just completely just changed my whole life trajectory and whatnot. It was one of those. It's kind of like when your phone is bugging, right? Yeah. And you have to do like a hard reset. It's like, okay, we got to start over.
Right.
the universe did a hard reset on me. It's like, you're not on the right path.
Right.
You know, I had a day job that was, you know, dead end. I had a marriage that was terrible. You know what I'm saying? I had 2 little kids, and I'm not mentally like present. I'm there, I'm physically there, but I had so much going on. I was just in a terrible headspace and whatnot. The marriage ended, you know, the artist, I realized that was the first time I realized that not every artist wants to be successful. That was my first experience of like self-sabotage. And I didn't realize that, people don't want to be successful. They say they want to, and they have talent and whatnot, but we realize that not everybody actually wants success. So I'm experiencing all of these things all at the same time, and it was just a terrible experience, at the time in my life and whatnot. But I retained the vision and the goal of my company, right? And so I held on to it, but what I did was I put it kind of to the side in a sense, and I was like, you know what? I need to learn more about the business. Yeah. I had seen it from the outside looking in as a spectator, but I realized I didn't know enough about the business. So I put my company to the side, and I was like, let me just educate myself. And I just, at that point, as I'm starting to pulling myself out of, the implosion of my life, I started reaching out to a lot of LA talent at that time. Thanks to, websites like Dub CNN and West Coast Writers, I was able to learn about a group of talented, LA-based artists called, they were affiliation of the New West at the time, producers, artists, whatnot. And so I'm reading a lot, I'm ingesting a lot of information on these websites, trying to figure out who's who and whatnot. And that's when I started reaching out and building relationships, initially with people like, Dem Joints, Terrace Martin early on, Day One. These were like producers that, I was able to like connect with and whatnot, and start building these relationships. And then that got me in the LA area and whatnot. And I still was living in the IE, but I was out here and I was meeting more artists and whatnot. And I met like even, DJHED, who I work with now, I met him in 2008, and he doesn't remember meeting me back then. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I was just around, I was around, and there was like a lot of artists that were just, really had the city kind of like, buzzing at the time. People like Rocket, Problem early on. I remember the first time I met Problem was like 2006. You know what I'm saying? I met him through Terrace Martin. There was a singer named Chris Ivory. There was just, just all the Tajay, Noni Spitz. I mean, there's, and then obviously you had the bigger artists like Glasses Malone, right. Bishop Lamont. Right. I remember meeting Bishop Lamont and building relationships. So, that's when I was just starting to get my, West Coast LA experience. Was, like I said, I just kind of put my company to the side. I just put myself in the mix. I just wanted to just be around and just, if I could help people or just be a part of some stuff, I was just a part of it in whatever way I could.
Now, one thing you guys got to listen to is, it sounds like the divorce. It sounds like the bad business relationship with your partner back then. It sounds like you learning that the rapper you're working with didn't want to be successful. It sounds like that pushed you even harder to get out here and search.
Well, yeah, it did, because what I the thing is we're all born, right? And there's life lessons that we're supposed to do. Exactly.
You can't live without them.
Yeah, and we all have a different path, and there's things that you're supposed to accomplish in this existence, there's things I'm supposed to accomplish in this existence, so on and so forth.
Right.
And one thing that we all tend to have to learn is we have to be self first.
Yes. Exactly.
And most of us never truly learn that.
Exactly.
And I'm a work in progress on being self first, but I was always so selfless. I'm like, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you, and then no one did anything for me.
Right, you lose yourself
and I was
in that process.
Literally depleted in that process of the divorce, and and losing, walking away from my job, and my business partner stabbing me in the back, and all that happening was like, oh, I've been pouring into people, no one's pouring back into me and whatnot. And so I realized that relationships more important. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to understand, like, I'm an only child, but I'm one of those people that I'm a successful only child. Like, I don't need people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can do shit by myself. I can go to movies by myself. I can live my life. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I'm like, I don't need people. Like, and to this day, you won't see me just, with a gang of people around me. Like, I just don't have that. And so, that 2006-07 experience of losing everything or whatnot and integrating myself in what was going on in LA, I was still very much a singular individual. I just happened to start building these natural relationships and there were these camps of people, right? But I could go to camp to camp to camp because I kind of had my own individual relationships, and so therefore, which is how I am today, which is I can just be, you know, I have great relationships with everybody, and I'm not team this or team that.
Right.
I'm team everybody.
Right. So, was there a point in the midst of all of that, that you thought about completely giving up on everything?
No. So what's funny is it was the complete destruction of my life that made me realize I gotta go all the way for this.
That's right.
Because I was this 1 foot in, 1 foot out guy, right? I had my family, I had this job, I gotta take care of my family, and I'm trying to do the right things as a man, right? I have a wife and kids and whatnot, so I had to keep the job, but I'm trying to pursue my passions and things like that. And my mother, what's funny is I get a lot of credit for some of the things that I say and the wisdom that I have and the quotes and whatnot, but a lot of it comes from my mom, right?
Okay.
And she's one of the most, brilliant, spiritually brilliant people I've ever encountered to this day. And she'll just drop these gems on me and whatnot, and or just give me some insight. And when my life was completely falling apart, she told me, she says, you know what? This is your time to go for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, as your family, we will help you with the babies and whatnot, because, we're very much like a village, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But this is your time. And I never looked back.
Wow.
And whatnot. And it's not been easy. It's not been pretty and whatnot. But no, I went all the way. And so the giving up, I had those thoughts early, or when I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was like, maybe I should just be like a regular guy, right?
Yeah. But you couldn't settle for that.
No.
Yeah.
I can't, what I'm saying? As Genevieve says, I wasn't born to be regular. You know what I'm saying? It's or no, God didn't make me to be regular, is what she says.
Yeah. Shout out Genevieve. Yeah.
And I've had that same, mentality. So no, I've never thought about giving up. I mean, I've had some low moments for sure. Giving up, I'm no quitter.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just no quitter.
That's right. Now I have to now see the job situation. I worked a job, and every day I woke up like, this isn't for me. You know what I'm saying? This does not complete me. I'm depressed here. I'm not happy here. I know there's more than me. Until, like you said, when your life goes into destruction, she said that's the best time to do you. Yeah. That was the most incredible advice ever. So y'all never forget that. No, that was, I mean, and the thing is, if you're fortunate enough, and I know not everyone has great parents, but if you're fortunate enough to have a great parent or parents and whatnot, they never stop. And when you become a parent, you never stop being a parent. And so, as an adult man, my mom giving me life-changing advice, right? And she did that a couple of times, because years later, I hit another rock bottom in the pursuit of this, business and whatnot, and she had to have a real conversation with me. Pick your head up.
And because so to give you some context, between 2007 and 2010, right, I'm out here and I'm trying to make shit shake, right? Trying to figure it out, trying to be attached to things, trying to put plays together, whatever I can do. And I was working with different people and whatnot, and I had an opportunity to go to the Bay, and this is before getting distribution of music was really readily available, right? So you had to find people who had access to distribution,
right?
And I forgot the name of the company, but there was a company that was based in the Bay Area that was putting on for Bay Area artists, right? And they were able to give them distribution opportunities and things like that. But LA didn't have that at all. You know what I'm saying? And you have to understand, LA never had a real independent music scene, because when rap started and whatnot in New York and whatnot, and then it started to populate in LA, you could just be a talent and whatnot and get signed. And so people would just go get signed and whatnot. We never had to figure out how to do it independently like other markets like Kansas City, Oakland, things like that, Texas, where they had to figure out how to do things independently first. LA never had to do that. The Bay did. So when when things got bleak in LA and whatnot, artists didn't know how to get real distribution. This is prior to streaming, prior to iTunes, right? And so I had an opportunity. I had met some people in the Bay who had that, and so I was trying to bridge that gap, trying to bring LA artists up there and whatnot. And in the midst of that, I met some people in the Bay, some artists, who were looking to do something dope musically, to white rappers who were like kind of like battle rappers, but they wanted to like leave that and kind of do more of a pop kind of a thing, but they needed a sound. And I knew a producer that could deliver the sound, which was the homie THX. And I put this group together in the Bay called The Freshmen. Okay. They later turned into a group called Drop City Yacht Club. And they had a song with Jeremiah that came out in like 2010-ish or whatever. But anyway, in the process of doing that, like I put the whole group together, I was funding it, I was doing all this and whatnot. Let's just say the business didn't work out for me.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Let's just say people didn't really like, you know, do right by me in that particular situation. And so I was kind of left empty-handed with that. You know, they went ahead and was able to sign a deal and whatnot. And everything that I had been working on between 2007 2010, you know, I ended up with like nothing. I had nothing to show for all these years of running around trying to, you know. And so I was that's when I was in the worst time of my life, right? Yeah. The time where I should have quit, that was the time. That was definitely the time. And I've never been one to like talk about like depression or whatnot, but I didn't realize I was going through a depression because I felt like, you know, things just weren't working out. People were, you know, not doing good business by me. I had this sinking feeling that I think people were kind of like talking about me behind my back, which I later confirmed that was right. So people were kind of like low-key trying to blackball me in LA, and it was just out of some misunderstandings. It wasn't anything that I actually did. It was just miscommunication, misunderstandings of some things. But they ran with the narrative that I was doing bad business. I was in a terrible place, an absolutely terrible place, and I wanted the success so bad, but I didn't know and I was just not doing anything. I was just sitting in a place of stillness, waiting for shit to happen. And it's like, and my mom pulled me aside, and this is what I wanted, you know, to allude to. And she says, you know, you have to take account for who you are, take accountability. You put yourself in this position. What are you going to do about it? Right? Yeah. You know, what are you going to do about it? And really had a real, like, you know, come to Jesus with me about, I have to make change. And I wanted to point the finger at all these people. Yeah. But the reality is, that won't help. That wasn't going to help. I still had to do something about it, right? And so I swallowed my pride and I was like, she's right and whatnot. And so I had to reinvent myself yet again. And I had nothing. I had no one was picking up my phone calls. No one was like, and I had no relationships. I had one scraggly relationship left out here, and it was with the homie CHUCKDIZZLE that I had met, you know, years past, just in passing, and I had been to his platform called Homegrown Radio and whatnot, and with nothing else to do, no place to go, nothing, I had hit him and said, yo, are you still doing Homegrown? And if so, you know, can I pull up? He said, sure, yeah, no problem. And I pulled up. It was February, I'll never forget, it was like early February 2011. And that moment I walked into the door of Homegrown completely changed my life. And I didn't know it at the time. But I just walked into, you know, he had a 3-bedroom apartment in Inglewood, not in the good part of Inglewood. You know what I'm saying? And they was doing this thing like late at night, and when you at park, you're like, yo, I don't know if this is a good idea, right? But like, fuck it, you know. And I would go, and I went, and you know, I walked into this apartment, and I see like a bunch of women, you know, drinking like Moscato, doing like, I don't know.
You're like, what the hell?
Well, they were doing like, you know, I'm not a gamer, like you know, one of those games where you dance and shit like that.
Okay.
He was like, what the fuck is going on in here? And then I'm hearing music blasting out of one room, and they're like, yeah, you can go in that room. And I walk into this room, and it's a pretty big kind of bedroom, but it's like a long bedroom, and it's packed with just hella niggas, and it's stuffy. You can literally cut the air. just stuff and steam, right? And you know, DJHED is DJing, Chuck is in front of the computer, and you know, in the mixer, you know, whatnot. And there's a couch for people to do interviews. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, what the fuck is going on in here? Right. You're like, it's just complete chaos. But as I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know, there's something here.
Something special.
There's something here, but they have no idea what they've got. And they have no idea what and I don't know radio or anything like that, but I know when I see something special, I'm like, and so I just started coming every week. And after the end of the show, I would talk to Chuck and give him like my feedback on what I thought they were doing well and what they could improve on and things like that. I wasn't really building a relationship, with Head at the time. Head is a difficult person to get to know at first. It's not that he's it's not that there's something like wrong with him or he's not an approachable person. He has a demeanor that seems like he's unapproachable, and he also just doesn't remember people.
Yeah, he looks like he's not easily impressed.
He's not easily impressed. But he literally doesn't remember people.
Yeah.
Just doesn't remember people. You know what I'm saying? So you have to like be in his face like 20 times and be like, oh, yeah. Kind of a thing, right? And so the thing is, I don't take anything personal.
Right.
I've never taken. Right. I don't take that kind of stuff personal. It's like, oh, you don't remember me? Like I don't take none of that personal. So I just kept coming. Just kept coming. And then I started to kind of see how I could bring value in what I would start to do. And these guys didn't know I did this until I told them years later. I would bring Moscato for the women and I bring vodka for the men, right?
Oh, sneaky, paying attention.
What I was doing was I was trying to create a more of a livelier, it was already a lively atmosphere, and I'm not a drinker, right?
Right.
But I would do that, right, to kind of create this, because I already had this house party kind of feel, and I was like, let me just kind of like get this, social lubrication going a little bit more, right?
Gotcha.
And then I would start like telling people that I was going to, Homegrown, and people would start kind of like pulling up. I was using Twitter a lot at that time and whatnot, and started creating this. It was like a mixer. It was like an industry mixer every Thursday night of what was going on locally in the city and whatnot. And people just started, even artists and producers who didn't have interviews would just come just to hang out.
Right.
And just kind of created this, cultivated this energy and whatnot, till like it was like really built it up and whatnot, and it became this what we later coined the Homegrown experience. So, like it was just this incredible experience of all these young, ambitious, talented people and whatnot. And you had Chuck and Head and putting on, and it was just this great, energetic, new, passion-filled environment.
Now, the one thing that I admire about Homegrown Radio was that they started in their apartment. And when you scroll all the way down on the Instagram, you just see pictures with Head up against just a regular wall. The room was just a regular room. They got everything in there. They're going in. And the thing is, they started with what they had. They didn't say, oh, well, it's not perfect now, so we got to do something else. And then also, you were committed to showing up, because you would show up every Thursday for almost 2 years.
One thing I know about anything you want to do in life, it's about, I've said, I think I said on social media, it's never about the quality of the idea, it's about the commitment to the idea.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
A lot of times people will come up with a great idea or whatnot, but they're not willing to put in the work towards that idea. And, my secret sauce, when people always want to know what's the secret sauce of my success or whatnot, is I put in the work. And so that was just the work. It's like I had to show up and that was, several hours, It would go from like 9 to midnight or whatever, right? And then you would kind of hang out afterwards. But I would show up every Thursday. First of all, it gave me something to do, gave me something to look forward to, but I did it, and it was about consistency. You can't really receive any of the gifts of what you're trying to do if there's no consistency there.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
and so I had to keep showing up. They were showing up, so I could show up. You know what I'm saying? And so I just showed up every week.
And then you also added pieces to the puzzle. Shout out Sparkle Pratt, because you brought her along to handle like business operations and things like that. Why did you feel like she was the perfect fit for that?
Well, I have a really good eye for talent outside of just like creative people, just talented people. Whether it's business or different art forms or whatever, right? I just have an eye like, oh, this person's special at what they do. I was on Twitter, heavy. I've always been on Twitter heavy, but I was on Twitter heavy, and I would see this name be retweeted, and I wasn't following her, but would be on my timeline a lot. Sparkle Lynn. I'm thinking, who is this Sparkle Lynn person? And she was always at shows, and I would see other artists retweet her and talk to her, and I'm like, who is this Sparkle Lynn person out of LA? Like, she's cracking.
She's cracking.
She's like super cracking. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know who she is, right? But she's like, I'm like, who is this? And so one day I decided to follow her just to be like, okay, let me see what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, this girl is. I'm thinking she had an industry job. Like, what does she do? So one day, I DM her. I'm like, hey, what do you do in the industry? She says, I don't do anything in the industry. I'm a college student.
Yeah.
I'm like, shut the front door. What? Because based on her timeline, based on her Twitter, like because she was a fan.
Yeah.
So she was going to all these shows and whatnot, and she's such a likable, gregarious person that people just fuck with her, like just approach her and whatnot. And so she had all these incredible relationships with people. So I thought she already had like some kind of like low, like entry level industry job. So via I think I text her, we exchange numbers, we text her, we hop on a phone call, and she tells me like, no, I'm in my senior year of college, I'm getting this degree and whatnot, but I realize I don't want to do that for a career. I really want to do something in the entertainment field, but I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, well, I don't, I want to help you. I don't know, but you don't know what you want to do. I said, the one thing I can do is I can give you the opportunity to work with this company I'm working with called Homegrown Radio. And then she said, oh, I know who they are. I listen to them. I'm a fan. And at this point, I was always shocked when people said they were a fan because the numbers were kind of light. So you're surprised. Did you know about this? I'm like, wait, you're a fan of Homegrown Radio? You know what that is? She's like, yeah. I listen to them every week.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah. That's what's up. So I had a really long conversation with her, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you just pull up. I'm going to have you work with CHUCKDIZZLE. He's, the founder and whatnot. He does a lot of stuff, but he needs help. I don't know what you're going to do, but do that for a little while. And then once you kind of like have this experience and you start meeting people and you have different, like you do a few different things for Homegrown, once you kind of figure out what you really want to do, I'll help you then pivot and then help you go pursue that.
Right.
Like, so this is not like a forever thing at all. This is like just kind of like get your feet wet, what you want to, learn and whatnot. And so she came, and it was her first show was like Halloween that year, and they always did like a Halloween themed night for Homegrown. It was like a players, I think it was like a players ball or something like that. That was her first night, so it was basically a Halloween party and a radio show. And the first night there, she doesn't like know anybody or whatnot. And I think she was handling socials and it was in like the chat room.
Okay. Because, she was on the computer doing it.
That was her first night, and we have not been able to get rid of her ever since.
What you mean y'all tried to get rid of her?
I just didn't expect her to stay.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you
up in there?
Why are you with us? Working with Chuck, Head, and myself is not an easy thing. Like, we're great guys, but we're brutal to be around because we just talk shit and have jokes and we're men, right? So we don't communicate well, and
especially with women.
We just don't. So we don't be giving her the information. Like, we're like a real headache for her and whatnot. And she's the most loyal human being on earth, and she loves us to pieces. And there's nothing she wouldn't, do for us and whatnot. And so, and she's gone on to have, great, stops in her career for Hip Hop DX, and is now over at Complex. But she's team Homegrown all day, every day, first and foremost.
Yeah, and see, that was one of the things you said you really admired the culture. Now, another thing is when I first met you. That's what you spoke to me about. You got to add value. You know what I'm saying? And it's so funny that before I met you, I had a conversation with my step pops about that. So I'm like, man, I got to figure this out, like how I'm gonna blow up in this. And he was like, man, you probably got to get under somebody. You're gonna have to figure out how to add value. You're gonna have to be somebody's doorman or whatever the case may be. So you got to understand, everybody adds value. Now, you also told me that you drove for DJHED for a month.
Well, so bringing up adding value, right? So I'm around Homegrown for better part of a year at this point. One night, he and I just started talking. Like I said, Head is not one of those guys that you can just strike up like a relationship when you first like meet him.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like one night, he just saw that I kept coming, so he's like, okay, you must like really fuck with what we're doing. And so we were talking, and he just kind of like downloaded me about his life as a DJ, his career as a DJ. And he told me about some of the records he had broken, didn't get credit for, and some of the experience he had being on the road, being Glasses Malone's, show DJ and being on tour, and there's all these things he had done, but it hadn't connected and whatnot. And I was like, I really felt genuinely bad that he had put in all this work and people didn't really know what he had done at this point. And I'm big on credit in life. I'm just big on giving people credit. Like, sometimes we want credit more than we want money. Just let people know that, hey, I did this one thing or whatever, right? sometimes you can pay someone and like, but I'm not gonna give you credit, and like, and it eats them up.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be known the fact that I did this thing. So anyway, I believe in giving people credit. And it was some of all the stuff he had done, he hadn't gotten credit. Some of the records he had put together, some of the records he had broke, and things like that. He played first and all that, right? But he didn't have the platform to get for the people knew that he was the first guy to do that.
Right.
Had a great conversation, but then he went on tour with Glasses for like 40 days, right? So he had missed a few shows and whatnot. When he came back, is when we had, after a show, we had we went to Denny's and in Hawthorne, and so we had the show, then went to Denny's and sat in Denny's for like 4 hours, and he kind of really like told me what he really wanted to like, do, right? Really wanted to like, and the thing about me is I ask questions,
right?
Because what people don't realize is every one of us is born with the answers to our life. We just don't ask ourselves the right questions. Like we're all like, when you're trying to figure out like, what am I supposed to do with my life? We have the information that's within us. We just don't know what questions to ask ourselves. So I just ask people questions. I pull the information out, I reconfigure it, and then I put it right in the back. I was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, right? Yeah. So I asked him a series of questions about his career, what he had done, what he wants to do, so on and so forth. And he talks about it all the time about that particular conversation, because it was very much a life-changing experience for him, right, to really start thinking about, what he calls as the address, like where you're going in life. And so we figured out, while I figured out kind of what he wanted to do, I constructed like what that looks like, and I said what we have to, and then these are things that you probably should stop doing. Which was like, sounded weird. Like, you're a DJ and I'm telling him to stop DJing at the club.
Right, because they don't respect you enough.
Exactly, they don't respect you enough, they don't promote you, they don't pay you. Right. So like, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? And you want to be as big as DJs like DJ AM and things like that. And it's like, you can't do that in a club environment that does not ever showcase you, promote you, or pay you.
Correct, yeah.
So we have to do other things, right? And I was like, so we're gonna have to like affiliate with brands and corporations to do like their events. They have great budgets. I had this whole, idea and whatnot. So, and I was like, and I'm willing, to help. And so so the way I brought value is, he had all these tremendous relationships from being in the club scene for years and being with artists and whatnot. He knew everybody in the city. And I'm like, and because I use social media as well as I did then, and I still do, is I knew what things were happening around the city. And I would tell him, like, yo, such and such is gonna be over here and whatnot. You wanna roll? He says, yeah. The thing about Head is he'll go anywhere. He just doesn't wanna drive.
Yeah, he doesn't wanna drive. Yeah, you gotta figure it out.
I have no problem driving and whatnot, and I have no problem putting in the work. So I would just, at the time he lived in Bellflower, I lived in Long Beach, I would just go swoop him up and we just come to LA and run around the city and go to all the places that he had access to. Now, I was bringing value to him because it was getting him back in the scene, strengthening the relationships that he already had, but he was just kind of back in front of people, right? And it wasn't just him being on doing homegrown on Thursday nights, because that's the only thing that he was kind of doing at the time. So, that was a great benefit to him, right? So that was my value. My why for doing that is I didn't know these people and I needed these relationships. So he was my Trojan horse. I would just walk in with him and whatnot. And I didn't make it about me and whatnot. People would introduce themselves, and I'd introduce myself to people. No one ever remembered me. I met people 15, 20 times. There's people I'm still meeting. Like, they didn't care about who I was and whatnot. And like I said, I didn't, my ego didn't lay there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was bringing value to him and whatnot, and I wasn't taking things personal. These are things that you'll hear Head tell people. Bring value. Don't take anything personal, right?
Be undeniable.
And so I didn't take it personal that people didn't remember who I was, and I was willing to do all the driving and whatnot. And I had no problem with any of that, because he gave me the value I got was being in the rooms he had access to. Right? And I could just learn and observe and start building my relationships. Because I was playing a long game.
Right, yeah.
Because I had to reinvent myself. So I'm playing a long game here. Like, I tried to do things quick and shortcut before.
You notice it don't work. It don't work.
I didn't build a foundation. So I'm building a foundation with my relationship with him and meeting other people and whatnot. And that was the beginning of our relationship. I didn't say, let me manage you. I didn't say I want to manage you. I didn't say anything. I was like, I want to help. I just want to help. I don't necessarily want anything in return and whatnot. I just want to help and whatnot. And a few years into us running around, and he would introduce me to people. And the thing is, Head is always great about introducing. He's not one of those people who, no, he introduced me to everybody. And one day he's just like, oh yeah, this is my guy Sallis here. He's my manager.
There's one day he just slipped up and said that.
I'm like, I'm your manager? I was like, really?
Yeah. Like, okay, I didn't know about that.
Hey, you know what? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I just went with it and whatnot. And so, you know, it was like I said, it was a natural thing because I just kept showing up. I just kept showing up. You know, and the thing that I think, you know, Chuck and Head both respect is there was people earlier on before me who wanted to be part of Homegrown, whatever. But people say they want to do something, but they just don't show up.
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I showed up.
Exactly. You got to be committed. Now, that's another thing. When I first met you, you told me not to take things personal. That was something I kind of had an understanding of because as I do interviews, I'm reaching out, DMing people. I'm talking about even people I know leaving me on scene, just ignoring me flat out. And it's like, okay, you cannot blow up and get mad and emotional about that because what you'll do is self-destruct.
Yes.
If you get mad at everything that goes on.
Yes.
So especially in this business, you have to have thick skin, baby. You have to. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could go wrong here.
The thing is you don't matter to people until you matter to people.
Exactly. Like they say, nobody wants to support you until it's popular.
Like, you know, a lot of the people that, so, you know, I tell you, I was meeting a lot of people that would forget me, right? The moment DJHED put on a real 92.3 hat, all of a sudden people know who I am.
Oh, Sallis is the guy. Where have you been all this time?
I've been here the whole time.
Exactly.
I've been with this guy the whole time.
Yeah.
He put on a hat that said, because he now had a relationship and there was like success on that. And then the more success he had at the station, the more relevant I become. It's like, oh, now you guys want to like.
Right. But see, that's how one person benefits the entire.
Exactly. But because I didn't let that ever bother me and whatnot, I know what it is. And the thing is, and I'm guilty of that too. You know, there's people who come to me and they've been talking to me for years and I don't remember them. And then they'll do something like, oh, I know who. It's just, it's the nature of at least this business. It's like we're surrounded by so many people. We meet so many people. So many people are trying to do this, that, and the other and whatnot. You know, I don't ever, you know, even yourself, like it took me a couple times to just remember your name. We met and I'm cool. I'm talking to you. He was like, I don't know this nigga's name.
Well, you told me. Yeah. You said, bro, you're going to have to introduce yourself to me again and again and again.
I was leaving front with that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, 'cause I'm not going to remember. Like, this nigga pulled up and wanted to talk to me. I'm not going to remember this nigga's name.
But see, you know what? The situation and how we met, I was like, you know what? That was just God. And because I ain't gonna lie to you, I was here pursuing to interview somebody else, and he was kind of like, whatever. And I got called back to sit down in my seat, and that's for Cypress, and you were talking, and Cypress was like, man, you don't know who this is? I'm like, nah. You know, well, this is Sallis. I'm like, Sallis, what do you do? Y'all laughed. Like,
I don't know how to like sum that up.
Right. And so that's when he told me you do a lot, and then days later it hit me like that was the person that you needed to meet at that time.
Exactly.
You know, like like you said, a lot of the times in life we're going for stuff that is not meant for us. And we have to be discouraged and understand that wasn't meant for you, and you got to walk away from it and go to the next thing. Exactly. Like they say, when one door closes, another one opens. 100%. Don't you ever forget that. Now, being passionate about bringing the recognition back to the West Coast. Now, see, what Sallis broke down on the Clubhouse conversation was that when Pac died and Suge Knight shipped off and went to jail, the business infrastructure left. He kind of got into it a little bit, but let's dive deeper into it.
So you know, Pac dies 96?
96, yeah.
Snoop leaves Death Row, goes to No Limit.
All South.
Yeah, Suge has, you know, some legal troubles and whatnot, has to go sit down for a little while. The industry looked at what Death Row was and was like, yeah, we don't want that ever again. We don't want, and it was really about like Suge, right? It's like, we don't want that ever again. He was running amok. It was like a loose pit bull in these buildings, right? You know what I'm saying? Just running absolute amok. So like, we don't want that, because the thing about LA, which is different than the rest of the country when it comes to street stuff, is our street stuff is still tied to like gangs, right? It's not just pure street stuff. And so, you know, there's this gang mentality and whatnot, and it was just too real. You know, people love gangster rap music, but gangsterism is just too real, right? And there was just too much of that. So anyway, you know, when that all went down, the industry was like, yeah, we're cool on that. And being that that's what we were known for, even though we always had other talents in LA, that's what we were known for, they stopped signing artists, right? This is what people don't understand about the music business, right? Because people don't go to college to be in the music business. The music business is like the one industry where like education is not needed to be.
Does not matter.
It's about who you know, right? It's purely nepotism. Well, from the very beginning, right? So when rap started in New York and whatnot, and has been successful in other parts of the country, when an artist gets signed, right? There's always some homies around. So you sign this artist and whatnot, and then one of the homies becomes like a manager. So okay, you're my manager, right? And then another homie is like, oh, you help me with putting my records together. Like, okay, you like my A&R and whatnot, right? And then if that artist has success, what labels do is like, oh, you're successful. These are people that are around you that helped you be successful. Okay, we want to hire them, and we'll give them jobs and whatnot. And that's what typically has always happened, right? A lot of people that are, that have had success in the business started off with a very talented artist and whatnot, and because of the success of that artist, they then got to be signed and whatnot. I mean, not signed, but get jobs and things like that, right? So that's how you populate the industry of professionals. Well, when you stop signing LA artists, you also stop getting those professionals from LA.
Makes sense.
Right? So we had 10 years, whatever, not signing anybody, 10, 15 years, not signing anybody out of LA and whatnot. Well, that's a generation that's lost. So now there's no one in these buildings that's from LA. So when the New West starts coming in the early 2000s and whatnot, and they're making some noise in the city and whatnot, who can sign them and market them? There's no one in these buildings that's from here that understands what they're doing,
right?
And could help them, make it make more sense to what they were doing. They were just trying to figure it out,
right.
No guidance, no support, nothing like that. And we just didn't have these professionals. And so, when people talk about the South and the success of the South, and everyone says the reason why the South is so successful and Atlanta's so successful is all the artists fuck with each other. That's not the case. A lot of those artists actually don't like each other and whatnot. But generationally speaking, they've all had, the managers all fucked with each other. The A&Rs who were fucked with each other. And so the infrastructure of the business, the network was there. They fucked with each other. Artists come and go.
Right.
The infrastructure stays the same, right?
Right.
And so you start seeing, people who they started off managing this person, and they managed that person, and they managed that person, and then their little homie or their person below them is on A&R here, and then they got, now they're the senior vice president of this, and they're running this label, and they're the president. And Atlanta has been able to has a continuous string.
That's great.
Of that, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. They have this continuous string, and so they've been able. So that's why the sound of the music has changed from snap, crunk, trap.
Right.
Outkast, what Outkast was doing, because you have to remember, when L.A. Reid and Babyface, went down there and did Hitco and whatnot. That was the beginning of building that infrastructure, and so they just kept, just increasing that infrastructure and whatnot, and the sound of the music keeps changing and whatnot. Right. Well, in LA, we didn't have that, right? And the generation that we were missing was literally my generation, people my age not having the opportunity to be in the label system. I didn't have an opportunity to be in the label system and whatnot. So when you would see an artist that you'd be like, oh, they got it, they're the next such and such, you couldn't reach out and sign them and then tell the label, this is how we're gonna market them, right? And so we didn't have that. So now that LA is really, there's a light being shown on LA, which is great artistically, right? We still struggle in certain areas. We struggle, at radio. We struggle at DSP. We struggle getting the right publicity and things like that.
Right, yeah.
Because we don't have people on the infrastructure on the back end. So me and Head spend a lot of time with artists, at least helping them with their music and whatnot. But in the last couple of years, I've really been investing in helping the new generation of future executives. You know what I'm saying? Current, people that are current managers, people who are, entry, level A&Rs now that are from LA, yo, how can I help you? Publicists, I have friends that are publicists. How can I help you? I need you to be successful in this building.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I need you to be successful. So what can I do to help you? What do you need from, and that's where the passion really comes. It's about the infrastructure of LA. Because everybody wants the culture of LA. Right,
exactly.
They've always wanted the culture of LA. But no one wants to invest in the culture of LA. And they never want it from LA people. You know what I'm saying? So people come here, get you know, a surface level experience of some LA shit. It's like, oh, you know, but never like get to the real root and the nitty gritty of some LA shit and whatnot. And then they try to take our sauce and whatnot. It's like, yo, you know, they shoot their videos here, they record their albums here, all the award shows are here. You know what I'm saying? Their photo shoot. Like, we're gonna do everything here, but we're not gonna do it with any LA people.
Yeah, that's different.
Woo!
Now
it rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. Now I have to ask you, because we have so many artists who want to take the independent route now. You know, like, from what I understand, the highest was Nipsey at a certain point in time. Do you feel like that has been very important to making sure we bring that infrastructure back here? Like, those people actually learning the business,
yes,
working amongst each other and making sure that we keep it here.
Yes.
How important do you think it is for future artists to make sure that they continue to take the indie route and be able to make sure we keep the infrastructure here?
Well, here's the thing, right? I don't believe, like we said about college, right? College is not for everybody.
Right.
Some people need college, some people don't, right? And I think, you know, when it comes to the business of music, some people need major labels, some people can do it independently. There is no one way for everybody.
Okay.
So I'm not like 100% pro independent, and I'm not 100% pro label. It really depends on the artist and their situation, the kind of music they make, the people that are around them, and what their end goal is, what they want for their career.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? You know, because when you go the indie route, you know, it's really hard to be like a global icon independently.
Yeah, you got to build that up.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a lot of like work and whatnot, and a lot of coordination of efforts and things like that, where like you go to a label, and if the label aligns itself well and executes, it's like, boom, you're a global icon. And so it depends. But the thing about the independent game is it's a way to truly learn every aspect of the business. You know, from the distribution to the publishing to the marketing, the digital marketing, the publicity. Like, when you're independent, you are the record company, and that's what a lot of artists don't realize. It's like, oh, I'm independent. It's like, but are you? Because you have to be the record company. Do you have a lawyer? Are you clearing, not just clearing samples? People are like, oh, I got to get this song cleared. Are you clearing the feature? You know what clearing a feature is. You know what I'm saying?
That's different, yeah.
So that they can appear on the project. And if you want to shoot a video, they'll show up for the video. And if you want to go to radio, you've got the clearance to go to radio. Like, sometimes you can have a feature on an artist, and you're like, yeah, but you can't go to radio. So, well, that's the point of the feature. Is I want to go to Why did you tell me that in the first place?
Well, see, that's why they say it's important to have a team.
An educated.
It's important to listen.
Now, here, let's talk about that. Don't just get a team. Get an educated team.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Or if it's a young team, a team that wants to be educated. Because I know a lot of teams that don't know what they're doing.
It just don't make no sense.
They're not looking to be educated. They're just out here. They're just all vibes. It's like, no, you gotta like figure out what the hell you're doing.
All vibes.
You know, you gotta figure out what the hell you're doing out here.
So okay, I want to say that because your purpose is like to serve others, you want to serve everybody else. You want to make sure everybody else gets to that level. You're going to definitely be one of the front runners as to why LA can get that respect again, or the West Coast can get that respect again. Now, instead of you always being, because you're not always in the front of the camera, you're not always the guy that's getting the most credit. How have you learned how to accept that role and not be upset about that?
Well, the thing is the work has always mattered to me, right? Purpose, is what, purpose and passion is what fuel me, and it's not about see me. I gotta, it's about the work, right? And I believe when you do the work, you will be seen. You know what I'm saying? Because I make a concerted effort to not be the look at me guy. Me being seen is taking a little longer, right? So like when you asked me to do your show and whatnot, it was a yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, sure, I'll talk. I'm not tripping. People think that I'm anti, no, I'm just like, I just don't make it a point to be, loud about what I do. I want the work to speak for itself. And I still feel like I have so much more to do. What are we celebrating? Right. And don't get me wrong, people give me my flowers and tell me all the time, what I've done, and I'm completely grateful and appreciative of it. And in that moment, I have to realize, yes, I need to receive this and be appreciative of this because I have put in a lot of work. but I have such grander goals that it's like, yeah, this is cool and whatnot, but like I'm trying to like do that.
You just hungry.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's why I tend to like, overlook current, accomplishments and don't ever really celebrate anything. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. I don't take anything like, for granted per se, but it's like, yeah, but I'm still trying to like do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to get to that.
Exactly. Now, what was the relationship like with Hip Hop DX? You guys came together and made something from the West Side, and why the West Coast?
Well, because of Sparkle being over there, I was able to get, relationship with, the team, and especially at the time their editor-in-chief, who was at the time was Justin Hunt, great guy and whatnot, and he had just kind of been new to LA from New York, and so hanging out with me and Head, he kind of got a chance to like really like see like LA and Hollywood and whatnot from our vantage point and whatnot, and he loved the city and he just loved us and whatnot, and so I was able to build a relationship in bringing value, right? I was like, I had this relationship with Justin and whatnot, and I was like, I want to build this and make this stronger, because at the time, Hip Hop DX was the only West Coast like based media, hip hop media company, right? Everything was still based in New York. I was like, so how do I build this relationship? I brought him lunch one day, for no reason.
Just simple. Yeah.
For no reason, just brought him lunch.
Yeah.
Just brought him a platter of sandwiches from a local. A restaurant called Orleans in New York. I just brought him a platter of cold cut sandwiches and whatnot. And let me tell you something. If you want people to pay attention to you and build a relationship, there's two things, and Head has said this many times because I've told him, two things that every human needs on earth: put some money in someone's pocket or put some food in their belly.
Yeah, facts.
And you've got their attention.
Yeah.
If I came and I had an opportunity, it's like, I could put like, some money in your pocket, you're gonna take my phone call the next time I hit you. It's like, man, this nigga put some, put some bread in. Or I was like, hey, I'm gonna pull up and I got food. Oh man, good looking. I haven't eaten all day. Right.
Yeah. That's getting anybody attention.
This is like universal, right? Yeah. So I brought them some sandwiches and whatnot, and just hung out and just shooting the shit and whatnot. And the thing is every company is just real people and whatnot. And so I just started building these relationships with the writers and whatnot. And at the time, Soren Baker was their great writer. To this day, have a great relationship with Soren. Ural was over there, and the homie Andre, and I would just kind of like, I would just pull up on those guys, just pull up and just talk shit. And I treated Hip Hop DX like I treated Homegrown. I could just walk in and just have
you weren't like starstruck.
Nah, and I would just be there, and I would just hang out and whatnot, shoot the shit, and then I'd leave and whatnot. So I had this idea. This was a few years back, where there was this one year, and I forgot what year it was specifically. You have to reference the article, but there were a lot of tremendously dope Grammy-nominated projects, and so much of it was produced by LA producers.
Right.
And I had this idea, it's like, yo, we should write a story about that. How LA is winning from the producer stand, because producers never seek the limelight and things like that. Right. And Ural loved the idea, pitched it, and wrote it, and it was a great piece. And
that was from the West Side, right? Okay, that was that situation. Now, as you build these relationships, you and DJHED are constantly constantly working. BET approaches you guys to be a part of Key Experience, right? And people often, as we said, the king of quotes right here, okay? He says, people often say they do things for the culture. We didn't say it, we did it.
Yeah.
So how was that whole experience getting into there and putting that together and being part of it?
Hey, that was a lot. I'll just say that. Anyone who's been in this business, who's worked with BET, will tell you that everyone has a BET story.
Yeah,
I'll just put it to you like that. Who's been with the business of BET.
Yeah.
With that being said, the guy that was over the whole BT experience, he's a New Yorker and whatnot. At the time, he worked there. Franz Kyle, great guy. He wanted to do something different on the shoe. They always had a shoe activation, right? But he wanted to do something different to get a little bit more engagement and whatnot. He just wasn't really happy with where the engagement was. So he had this idea to make something a little bit more like LA specific, because he's like, we do this event in LA and nothing in here says we're in LA.
Okay, yeah, recognition.
And so one of the producers of a lot of his activations suggested DJHED. because she knew that he was the LA guy. You know, we've always been pushing this LA stuff, right? And he was on the air at this point, here and there. Homegrown was on air as a mix, was a specialty show on the weekends, and he was like, and he would mix throughout the week and things like that. So she mentioned him to be like a good guy to kind of like help curate like the stage and whatnot. And so they reached out, took a meeting with us, and said, this is the situation. I got no real budget for you.
Straight up, yeah. Let's get that out the way.
But I got an opportunity.
Okay.
And this is what I want to do, and you guys can have, you guys can do whatever you want to do on the stage. Yeah. Whoever you guys want to put on the stage, I'm just going to follow your lead, so on and so forth. And then this is overall like activation of the space and whatnot. So you get a sense of how it's going to make sense and whatnot. But so how do you curate, a stage of popping talent and like no like real budget, right?
That's funny.
Relationships. Yeah. And so had reached out to people, artists, at the time, like people like RJ, I think G Perico, Shoreline Village, SOB, RBE. Just trying to think. It's been a minute, right? And so reached out to these people, and they were like, because of us, it's like, yeah, we got you, no problem. We weren't asking for much time and whatnot, and we were able to like curate the stage. And then I worked directly with the producers of the experience, right, for all the moving parts, right? So I was one of the producers of it, with that. So had curated like the stage, and then I had to like the logistics, because it's a logistical nightmare. Anytime you do anything like that, festivals, anything like that, it's just a logistical nightmare, right? So I had to like help with all that and whatnot. And and it's a two-day experience. It's like a Friday night and then all day Saturday, Friday evening and all day Saturday. Friday night, we have a good turnout, a lot of kids there, like it's like really going. And like one of, not our headliner, but one of our later like artists is RJ. And he gets, I think I got there kind of late or whatever. There's some issues getting him through, and it's, like I said, logistical nightmare, right? Finally get him on stage and whatnot, and he completely kills it. Like to the point, he had them kids going apeshit in there, right?
Oh, man.
And then he's like climbing like the scaffolding and like,
he brought some real energy up there, yeah.
It was a real problem.
Yeah.
But it was like memorable, it was legendary, right? And me and Head were like in the crowd looking at him like, oh, they're gonna shut us down. Like it's like too good. It's like too good, right?
Yeah.
And after that first night, we were convinced that they were gonna cancel the second day. Yeah. Because it was such pandemonium, like, okay, they're gonna cancel the second day.
We RJ, okay. Yeah.
They didn't cancel it. Yeah. They gave us more security, which is what we needed, right? And gave us some barricades and things like that. And it's like, no climbing in some rules, like no climbing and they let us go the second day, and the second day was just as big and whatnot. And we were done. I was like, and we were like, damn, we did that. Like we felt very like accomplished, but I was exhausted. It was like 6 months work for me for 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm just helping on a little bit of it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, we're not gonna do the second year, like
without a budget at least.
Well, that's at all. I'm like, I'm not doing it at all.
I'm not doing it at all.
I'm not doing it.
Now, see, when you think back,
but then we ended up doing the second year.
Oh, y'all did it anyway.
We did it anyway because I did have a list of like what I call terrorist demands. It's like, all right, I'm gonna have a list of things that they're gonna have to agree to, and if they don't agree to all of them, I'm not doing it.
He said terrorist demands.
And Head said it's up to you. He said it was up to me, right? Yeah. He said he trusts me, right? And I'm like, all right. And I gave him a list of demands, and Franz was like, done. I'm like, oh shit, we gotta do this
terrorist
again.
demands.
And the second year was even better. It was just even better.
Yeah, because y'all built up a lot of hype from the first year. People just talked about that.
It was an amazing. It's one of the highlights definitely of my career is the BET experience, this Kick experience, because it did a lot for people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so what the thing is that, like you said, it was a logistical nightmare, right? These people are putting in so much work that y'all can't even see or rather not consider for y'all to have a good time, and y'all don't even know nothing about the nightmare they just
man, people have no idea with the stuff that we do behind the scenes. People,
just all the stress.
They have no idea.
Right.
No idea.
Man, so y'all make sure y'all be considerate of that and stop being so. Cause see, we live in a time where people are so negative. Oh, well, that movie sucked. Oh, well, they didn't do this right. It's like, y'all don't know the work that had to go into this.
No idea.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, and my thing be like, why don't you go ahead and do it and see how you do?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, then you can relate. Now, your first time producing content for TV came for G Perico on.
It's not just G Perico. There was Revolt came to us to do Homegrown on Revolt.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be a series. And so J.Brock was the first episode. We shot several people, RJ, J305. We had a great director in Amandon Lovett, who understood, he's not from here, but he understood culture and how to frame it, and frame culture and whatnot. And yeah, we had a really good time doing that. And so it was, like I said, it was like a series. A lot of it aired digitally, and a couple of those episodes aired on Revolt.
And how was that experience for you, being able to be a producer in that situation?
Well, it showed me that I could do that, right? And being able to do that now, once you do something once, you've conquered that. And it's like, oh, okay, I want.
It's not as hard as you thought.
Yeah, and you want to expand the idea. So I tell people, being an uncredited producer for Homegrown on Revolt allowed me to have the idea, the thought, and the execution to do West Coast Confidential as an executive producer that I'm doing now. It's because I know how to do production and whatnot, and how to work with people, and how to put it together and things like that. And so the thing about me is, there's value in education. There's value in opportunity.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's not always about credit and or the money. It's like, I just need to learn how to do that. I need to see it, touch it, feel it. It's like, okay, now I can now replicate that. And now I'm a more useful, professional because of that experience.
I get that. Now, you basically on the set of the Rhythm and Flow.
Yes.
DJHED.
Head was the host and DJ of that. That was a great experience.
Yeah, Head. Now you said clap it up, and I said I got a shirt for you. One day you're gonna get this shirt. I don't know when, but you're gonna get it soon. Now, what was it like being around all that talent, the competition? Amazing. How long was actually the shoot for that?
That's a good question. We started shooting in February of that year, and I think we went through to it was a few months. It was a few months, just because of the shooting schedule and whatnot. So it was we had to commit a few months to that. Not a lot of time, just this a couple days here, a couple days there, spread out over a couple weeks and things like that. But it was several months and whatnot. It was a great experience. Great team in Jesse Collins Productions. Tremendous people over there. Jesse Collins is a great guy. I love everything that's been going on, with him producing all these award shows to the Super Bowl halftime show. He's doing the Academy Awards. He's doing the Grammys. Every award show that he does, the BET. He's been doing the BET Awards, regular awards and the Hip Hop Awards for years and whatnot. So he's a great guy and whatnot. And it was a great show, really. And it was about integrity for them the whole time. And so seeing how they worked that show, the guests, the judges that they had and things like that was great. And then our good friend won it, which was D Smoke. That was the homie. Yeah, and I was telling them the whole time on after every shoot, this is a good episode, man. I think such and such might be in the lead. I said, it's D Smoke. It's gonna be D Smoke, and the reason why he's just too good. He's too polished. It's gonna be D Smoke when it's all said and done.
Yeah, when that dude jumped on that piano and did what he did on that piano, I said it's over.
I remember the shooting for the final episode where they had to do their performance, right? Their final performance with the original record. We saw dress rehearsals that day. So it was dress rehearsals, and then you shoot the show same day. He was the first artist to do his dress rehearsal. We saw his performance. Me and Head looked at each other. Oh, this is over.
It's over with.
I don't need to know what everybody else doing. This is over.
Did you guys see the comparison in Kendrick Lamar?
I get why people say that. I definitely, get why, people say that. The thing is when you get to know, Smoke and whatnot, it's more than that. But on a superficial level, I can see when people make those kinds of.
Yeah, well, we know that he's authentic. We know he's not faking the funk at all. It's just being compared to that greatness. I feel like sometimes it's great. You know what I'm saying? For people to look at you in such a way, and then that dude can rap in Spanish.
Yeah.
That stuff right there is insane. When he started rapping in Spanish, people went crazy.
Well, when you find out things like he was Casey Veggie's, shout out Casey Veggie. He was Casey Veggie's Spanish teacher at Inglewood High.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He really speaks Spanish.
Right. Yeah, I went to Crenshaw with Casey Veggie's. I think we were in some science class together, and I just ran into him again. But you've been around Casey Veggie's and a lot of these young talents. Now, what is it like seeing these guys evolve from your standpoint?
Well, it always seeing the evolution, seeing the growth, seeing the maturity is always great, right? Especially if you're able to participate, help, take in some advice, whatever it may be, it's always good, and it goes back to, why I do this. It's about the betterment of, right? The betterment of the artist, the betterment of the culture, betterment of the music scene, the betterment of the business, right? And so it's always good to see, the evolution and the success, of these guys. There's artist Blast right now who's having a tremendous moment. He's having a tremendous moment. And I remember years ago he was in a group called King and Blast, and Chuck used to play their music before or after an episode of Homegrown. And so I would hear the music, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of good, right? And then one day they interviewed, them and the crew they were with at the time, TIU. But anyway, like I kind of started really like delving into like, their music and whatnot. I was like, man, this Blast kid is kind of special. And I remember telling the head like years ago, like it was like 2015, I said, yo, Blast is the future of the West Coast, because he gets it. He gets, from a production stance, writing, vocals, like, he just gets it, right? And you're seeing him having his moment right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, last couple of years, it's like he's having his moment, and you're filled with pride to see it. Like, yo, I knew he had that, right? And to see it, it's like, it always feels good.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, you've been around a lot of people. Been friends with a lot of people. For one of the guys, my guy Mars, you guys have a friendship, and for you to be able to be in the same room and come together and share ideas with my guy Mars, how has that been for you?
So, 1500 or Nothing in LA is a legendary band and production crew, right? If you're from LA, you know the legend of 1500 or Nothing, and Mars is one of the founding members of the band and production team. And so, and I'm a fan of producers, you know what I'm saying? And so I knew what he had going on and whatnot, and I remember meeting him years ago, and he's just a great guy. Like, if you know Mars, he's just a real fun-loving guy and whatnot, and easy approachable, we would just, chop it up, started building like a, relationship, just, casually, right? Just running into each other and whatnot. And then he had a studio space in North Hollywood that happened to be the same. There was 4 studios in one building, 2 downstairs, 2 upstairs. Mike and Keys had a room. It was where Nipsey did a lot of his stuff from like Slauson Boys 2 and Victory Lap. And then upstairs was like Mars and like BJ the Chicago Kid, right? There. And so I always had a real good relationship with Mike and Keys, especially Mike of Mike and Keys. And Mike had me pull up, one day in their spot and whatnot. And I realized, oh, you guys are all in here and whatnot. And I, saw that Mars was in there, and we kind of reconnected. And then Mars and I also have a mutual friend, and Sasha Pisserman, who's a great publicist out here in LA. And she was like, Sallis, pull up. And so I would just pull up on Mars at the studio and just hang out. Same thing I did, Homegrown and Head and Chuck, right? Just pull up, sit around, talk shit.
Then that's another thing that you do. You find that very important to make sure that you stay tapped in with even the smaller groups of people that's coming up to figure out who's around and what's going on. Why do you think that's so important when you don't have to do that?
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't have to do that. let's make that very clear.
That's how I met him. Sure.
Yeah, because when I was in a room where I did not need to be in when I met you.
Hey, it all happened for a reason.
It all happens for a reason.
We'll find out. Yeah.
The thing is at the time I didn't know why fully, but the homie DJ Malski, great DJ out here in LA, legend in the city, does a lot of sports, Sparks DJ, the Rams DJ, does a lot of stuff with USC, works over at KJLH, great guy. We were talking one day, and this was a couple weeks ago, and he said something to me, and I love when people give me perspective on myself, right? Because we never see ourselves the way everyone else sees us, right? And he says, Sallis, what makes you special, makes you a one of one, you're the unique person that's knowledgeable and relevant. I'm like, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? He says, well, if you think about it, most people that are knowledgeable, right? They've been in the business, they've got all this knowledge and whatnot over years and whatnot, but they're no longer relevant because they're not tapped in with what's new and what's going on, but they have all this information. And then people that are relevant, they're tapped in, fully tapped in, they know who's popping, they know what's going on, but they're new and they haven't done it that long, so they're not that knowledgeable. He says, you're the one person who's both. And I thought about that. And then it made me really think about my career and whatnot, starting with, cats and, the New West and, the early 2000s, to still being ground level with a lot of what's going on now, from, the cats out of the AZ Code, One Take Boys, the Mac and Co, teams, to people like Nana and, Sham, 1016 and Airplane James and all these different people, right, that are bubbling. I just want to always stay in the mix. Because the thing is I don't want to be that old guy that ages out. And the way you age out is you stop fucking with the young people. So now I can't move around like I used to because I got all other stuff. But that's when you people like Cypress Marino, amazing person to stay connected with. Rosecrans Vic, amazing guy to stay connected with. You know what I'm saying? Good Morning Gabe C. You know what I'm saying? DJ Gabe C. Another, all these are the young cats who are like firmly like implanted. And it's like I just tap in with them. They keep me updated, and I just pull up. My ability to pull up is the same thing I did with Head, but now that he's DJHED and he's out of here, I just pull up by myself or not, right? I just pull up, and I want to see it. I want to feel it. Like I want to experience. Like, okay, this is what's going on, and I want to see, is this a real thing? And if it is a real thing, how can I help make it into a realer thing? You know what I'm saying? Or like, this is not going to work out. This person's not serious. Whatever it may be, right? But I want to I have to experience it before I write it off. I don't want to just be dismissive and just prejudge things. I just pull up, and that's going back to what you're saying about Mars, is I just pull up on people, and people to this day are surprised that I'm pulling up. And it's like, I'll pull up if you give me an invitation. You're like, Sallis, I want to meet with you. Yeah. Where's my invitation?
Right.
You wanted to sit down with me, right? What did you have to do? You had to invite me.
You invited, yeah.
Did I make it hard? Did I make you jump through hoops to have this conversation?
No, you didn't.
No, I just didn't know when you want to do it. All right.
See, that's another thing too.
I'll pull up.
Our first conversation, you let me know what it was right then and there. And I said, okay, cool. Shit, I'm still about to go after you though. Come on. But also I learned a lot, just as far as even how to approach people, things like that. So now July 2020, you find out you're diagnosed with colon cancer. He survived. We got to clap it up for that.
Thank you.
Thank God for that. Now you were stage 3.
Oh, stage
4, it's a wrap.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now you got a 40% chance of being cured at stage 3. And we all know in the midst of that, we lost Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace.
That was an interesting story about that.
And that's when your ex-wife called you in tears because she's like, oh my God,
wait.
And you don't care.
And the thing is, it's like, we have not been like super cool after that. Like we're like cordial. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we're like homies.
Right.
And whatnot. And I'm like, when she called me, I'm like, whoa, like you actually care? Like, I mean, I know she didn't wish death upon me, but it's like, damn, like you're crying. It's like, nah, I'm good. Right. And I was very fortunate. Got a great prognosis. Most of what they needed to do was taking care of through the surgery. That was pretty much, I think they got it all in surgery. And so I was very fortunate. I did do 6 months of chemo just to make sure that I didn't have any lingering microscopic cells and things like that. And anyone who's ever been through chemotherapy understands it is spiritually breaking. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just literally destroying healthy cells in you the whole entire time you're on it. And it's just a terrible experience. But I had the right, I had a great mentality. I focused on myself, and I was very fortunate that I was able to do that through like the COVID quarantine. Right.
Yeah. That helped a lot, huh?
And so I felt like the universe really worked with me on that. Right. I could just kind of just do that in quarantine. And I still was working the whole time, but because of quarantine, I didn't have to go anywhere, which was very fortunate. And I took every phone call, answered every text, took every Zoom meeting, and a lot of people didn't. Actually, no one knew. Like only literally a handful of people truly knew what I was, going through and whatnot. But then I announced it on my birthday when I was, diagnosed being cancer free, and just kind of like gave everyone like a quick recap. It's like, oh, so this is kind of what happened. And not to be, I didn't ever want to be dismissive of it because so many people lose the battle. Exactly. But at the same time, I always had to be true to my battle with it. And my battle with it was I just never owned it. I didn't deny that I had it, but I never owned it. Never accepted. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right. And I'm the kind of person, give me some news, good or bad, and then tell me what's the next step. If you tell me I got the job, boom, when do I start? How much will I make? You tell me I got colon cancer, boom, what's the next step? Because this is not the end of my story. It's just something that I gotta go through. So, what's the next step? And I'm just a very much solutions-oriented, logistical person. It's like, so I got to do this, boom, 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 boom. Okay. And I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to, bear down and just do that. And that's how I handled it. But it's not lost on me what I did.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get it.
Right. Well, because you were in Atlanta and the BET Awards in extreme pain.
Extreme pain. Literally gut-wrenching
pain.
Pain.
Right. And you kept working and even going to the studio session where you had ended up falling on your face to get you back to the hospital. Like, it's time to really get this correct.
Yeah.
CHUCKDIZZLE really gave you your props on that, because a lot of people can use this as a crutch. I can't do this. I give up now. But you kept going.
I kept going.
So we got to give the props to that. Now, in 2021, you were selected into the Recording Academy class.
Yes, I was accepted as a professional member. And what was interesting is the Recording Academy had reached out to me, and actually DJHED, but two different people reached out to me, looking to help recruit more people from LA, right? The Recording Academy gets a bad rap that, there's not enough representation, especially when the Grammys come out, right? It's like, oh, they don't have the right representation. How come this was nominated, that wasn't nominated, or that won and that didn't win, whatever, right? And the thing about that is it's a microcosm of like our society, right? Like, we complain about the government, but we don't register to vote.
Just a little stupid stuff.
Where we complain about the government and we're registered to vote, but then we don't go vote, or whatever it may be, right? Well, that's the Recording Academy. The Recording Academy is not like trying to keep anybody out. You know what I'm saying? There's a process, to go through, and and if you're accepted, there's a membership fee, and you're here. You know what I'm saying? But you got to do it. You got to do that. And so they had reached out and whatnot and wanted access to, a few people that I could put them in contact with that they wanted to invite. Someone asked me like, well, are you a member? I'm like, no. Do you want to be a member? I don't know. Can I be? I don't know. Yeah. Sure. Like, well, you should be a member. Like, you're like the perfect person we're looking for. And I was like, all right, well, what do I got to do, right? Educated myself on the process, went through the process, had great support from the people at the academy, and then people who nominated me, wrote my recommendations, and I didn't realize how much it mattered to me until I was accepted and I got that email. What's funny is that day. I woke up, right, and I did the thing that people tell you never to do, right, when you first wake up, jump on Instagram. Jumped on Instagram.
Oh, man.
And I saw Head had been accepted. I'm like, damn, that's dope. He got it. And I thought, but they didn't accept me. And so, like, as happy I was for him, it's like, because, it's very important that he was part of, the academy, and he's I think a voting member. I'm like, they didn't accept me. It's like, all right, well, maybe I can try next year or whatever, right? So. And then, like 20 minutes later, I checked my emails. Like, I got the email. I just didn't know. I was like, oh, I won too.
Yeah, both in there.
And when I read that, I didn't think I cared until I saw it. And I was like, oh, shit, I cared. Like, that actually really meant something to me, right? To be brought into, the organization to really help. Because, the organization exists to help musicians and recording artists.
Yes.
Well, that's what I do.
Right.
Is help musicians and recording artists in LA and whatnot. So it's like now I get to like be a part of the organization that does it officially while I'm doing it locally and whatnot. And so it did matter to me, and I didn't realize it mattered until I got it.
You got up in there though. That's what matters. And you continue to serve people as you do. Now, as an executive producer, you and DJHED came together for West Coast Confidential. Now, you said the vision for it was to be basically all black. You got 2 black women, shout out Gina Views, Crystal the DJ. You got an all black production team, Breaking Ground TV, created 365 with a black owned media network behind it, 111 Media Network. You say people talk about the lack of diversity and opportunity. I did something about that. Now, how long had you guys been working on West Coast Confidential TV? The theme of it is to have a top 10 video. Where did all this stem from?
Like weeks after ending chemo in March, I'm flooded with a desire to like really like get cracking, and I'm just being flooded with ideas and whatnot. And I'm working on another idea for some content with Head. The idea came to me about I miss the video show, the video TV show. I understand that a lot of kids don't want that. So I'm not one of those people who's like, you know, back in my day, no, I get that. But it's like, I still think that it can exist and still serve a certain demographic that wants to be entertained in that way, right? And so I'm thinking of this idea, and at the time I was developing professional relationships with Gina Views and Crystal the DJ independently, and I'm thinking, you know, these are two young dynamic women out of LA that, you know, I see what they're doing, and I see their potential, I see their growth, right? And not just what they've done, but what they are capable of doing. And I had an idea, and I remember I had an idea, you know, earlier at the top of the year, it's like, I wonder why they've never done anything together. Like, it's like, it just made sense that they should do some content together. So anyways, I have this idea to do this show, and I'm thinking they should be the hosts of it, right? You know, you have the DJ, you have, you know, and then Gina the host and whatnot. And I had called them. I said, yo, I got this idea. Let me know if you guys, what you guys think. And I pitched them the idea, and I said, I think you guys should be the host of it. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. We'd love to. And they say, you know, we went to high school together.
Oh, that's crazy. You didn't know nothing about that.
And I'm thinking, you guys know each other? Yeah. And you're like, you know what I'm saying? And you guys have never done stuff together? Because to me, I can see the natural chemistry, right? It's one of the things I have vision, I can see. I'm like, nah, I just never thought about that. I'm like, okay, well, I think you guys should definitely do this and whatnot. And so we started that process in March and whatnot. And it took a minute to, you know, put all the pieces together and whatnot. And then I brought Head on to be like, to help me executive produce that, because like, I didn't want the two women to have a male co-sign on screen. But they still needed the co-sign from somebody to be like, yo, this is a real thing and you should check this out. Yeah. And having Head attached, you know, with me as the executive producer, people are gonna pay attention and whatnot. And he's been giving them great feedback and insight on, you know, doing content, you know, things like that because of his success and all the other things he's done. You know, he's got great insight on that and has been a tremendous voice for them while we work on the show. And it's been, you know, we've gotten some really great feedback from some very important, you know, people, and you know, it's been good. You know, it's challenging because of copyrights. You know, we're now in an age of copyrights and things like that. So I can't use like platforms like YouTube and whatnot, which is why I partnered with a Black-owned media company that can stream it for us and whatnot with no issues while we work on the copyright things. You know, the business of that. But I wanted to get the show up.
Yeah, no, it's dope. It's a dope idea. You can see them conversating and things like that. I think the first episode they had the McDonald's thing going on.
Yeah, the Sweetie meal.
From Sweetie. And by the way, I found a couple dope songs on there. But one of the songs that stuck with me was that 5'7" Ruger by Soulja Boy. I was like, dang, I never heard this before. So that's always going to be dope. Right? Yeah, that's always going to be dope.
That's the point, is to be like, because what's funny is, I let them kind of like produce the, you know, the videos and, you know, all that, and I'm finding it's like, oh, I haven't seen this video. You know, as I'm watching the show before we you know we put it on the network. You know, I have to kind of, you know, watch it to make sure that I'm like, I'm actually watching it as a fan. Like, this is actually kind of good.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know Draco and Sweetie had a song. Yeah. I didn't know that at all until that. So shout out to Gina Views, shout out to Crystal the DJ. Y'all doing a great job, man. I can't wait to see what it's gonna look like.
Absolute stars.
Man, for real. Y'all are doing a great job over there. Now, the role with the King of Crenshaw. If you guys don't know what the King of Crenshaw is, it is a 4-part series of the late great Nipsey Hussle. You get opinions from people like DeMarcus Cousins. You get Isaiah Thomas, DeMar DeRozan. These people are coming together and sharing their individual experiences about Nipsey Hussle and the impact he had on them in our community. Talking about his death, everything that went on. So, operating behind the scenes, how good do you feel to bring us something like this? Because you know we're starving for more Nipsey Hussle information. How do you feel being a part of that type of situation?
Oh, it was so personally fulfilling. You know, I had a relationship, you know, with Nipsey. You know, I didn't have the same relationship that a lot of people did, but you know, I would see Nipsey all the time just in the city. You know, and anyone who knew Nip knew that he was very approachable. You know, he always take the time, chop it up, and you know, and I went to a lot of the things he had at the Marathon store and like I said, I was in, you know, the studio when he was mixing down and finishing up Victory Lap, and you know, like I said, and I was, you know, I know his producers. You know, this is before I was actually working with Mars, but you know, Mars and Mike and Keys and things like that. So, you know, Nipsey is, you know, from LA. You know, he's, you know, that was, you know, he was the city. So when they approached, when ESPN approached Rans and Mars to do the music, right? They wanted to do the original music. That's when I kind of got looped in and started working with the production team at at 30 for 30 and whatnot. And my official job was just to help with the the music side of things, right? Just the being Mars's manager and whatnot, deliverables, just the stuff that you have to do, right? But they realized that I also had a lot of relationships and things like that, and so I was able to bring people like DJHED in to contribute and bring do some commentary and interview. And then there were other things that they needed help with as well, on the back end of the production and things like that, and they tapped me to help because they knew I could probably help them get it done and whatnot. So I ended up being a lot more hands-on that, and we're still actually, even as of right now, as we're shooting this particular episode, there's still things that we're working on in furthering the promotion of the show and whatnot. And I'm very much involved in all of that. And it's just been a great experience. They really cared. They put a lot of care into the story of Nipsey, wanting to get things right. It was very important that they got things right. So they wanted to have the right people, who could contribute and things like that. And so very fulfilling opportunity.
Yeah, very informative. If you have not checked that out yet, again, it is The King of Crenshaw, presented by ESPN 30 for 30, man. You do not want to miss out on that information. Now, Sallis, I got to ask you, out of all the things that you've been through, all the people you've been able to connect with and build relationship with, Sallis, what exactly do you clap it up for when you think back on everything that you've been through and accomplished?
For myself?
Yes, for yourself. Let's speak on you, Sallis.
That's a good question. You know what?
He thought about it.
So I've done a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And I tend to just overlook all of it, right?
Yeah.
Late November 2020. So I'm in the midst of chemo, right? Feeling terrible. We're in the middle of quarantine and the pandemic, and it's just not looking good. Within a span of a week, two things happened that I participated in. One was D Smoke got nominated for a Grammy, right? Yeah. D Smoke's a good friend of mine, and I helped him and his team, with their situation, their professional situation after the show and whatnot. I had some, I participated in just kind of like getting that going for them and whatnot, and then working with, their label Empire and A&R Gentry Salvatore about certain things as far as promotional things, and I just I'm always helping, right? Seeing him be nominated was like amazing. And Mars did the first single of that record, on that project and whatnot. So I had a lot of connection to that story. And then like a week later, Homegrown Radio becomes the new night show at Real 92.3.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
What you have to understand is when I pulled up on these guys, right? They were doing internet radio. The only other radio station in the city was Power 106, and and outside of Big Boy, their staff, their on-air talent was always Latino and whatnot. And so there was never the thought of two black guys being on terrestrial radio. So we were always trying to build something that could compete, knowing that these guys will never be on terrestrial radio. Well, then when they got hired at Real 92.3 separately, Chuck and Head, they were hired separately. It was like, oh, that's dope. But they'll never be able to do it together. And then they gave him Homegrown as a specialty show. It's like, oh, that's dope. But they'll never be like Monday through Friday. Like, you kept thinking of all these limitations, right? What they're not going to do. You're not going to be able to do this, not going to be able to do this. Right. When they became officially the night show, it was like late November last year, I had a moment where I was like, I fully allowed my full bravado and cockiness in myself. And I'm like, you know what? I'm that nigga. I'm that nigga. Yeah. And not trying to take anything away from, Chuck and the Head's hard work and dedication and whatnot. But I'm the nigga that pulled up, saw what they were doing, dedicated myself to them for 10 years, stuck with them for 10 years, through the trials and tribulations and whatnot, help, when things got rough here, things got rough there, when they were, making difficult decisions about the company and the brand, giving up the Inglewood space, like all kinds of things had to happen, right? Even some of the political stuff within, the iHeart infrastructure that, you just got to deal with, right? Every corporation is like, political stuff, and like navigating that and all that, and for them to get to something that we literally thought was not even an opportunity and a possibility. Right?
Yeah.
And that happened. And I was like, and unfortunately we was in the middle of, COVID and all that, so we couldn't like really like celebrate the way we want. But I'm like, yeah, no, I'm that nigga.
He said, I'm that guy.
But I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that, and I dedicated, and I worked with those guys, and I was so happy and proud. And I was like, be like, we did that. You know what I'm saying? But I allowed myself to take some credit, like, nah, I'm that nigga.
You got to.
Because that was like an impossibility. Like when you do something that you feel is like an impossibility, and it happens, it's like.
And then door after door, just you got to kick another door down. You got to kick that door down. But y'all defied.
So that's the thing that, if I was any one thing, well,
we got to clap it up to that. Now, look, check this out. Y'all make sure y'all tune in to West Coast Confidential TV. It's dropping weekly. Y'all make sure y'all tune in to The King of Crenshaw with Nipsey Hussle. That's dropping. I guess they got some more going on with that.
Yeah, so, they dropped 4 episodes, then dropped the bonus episode on the 30th of August and whatnot. So it's streamable on Spotify, Pandora. Catch that. I think we have some other content that we're working on to support that coming. We're gonna put out the original music will be streamable that that 1500 did. So we have more coming to support that as well.
Okay.
Check out Chuck and DJHED, Real 92.3 Monday through Saturday 7 to 10. 92.3 Homegrown Radio. Those are my guys, man. Those guys saved my life. I'm not gonna even lie.
Those guys saved my life. He said it verbatim.
And I'm very appreciative of them for forever. You know what I'm saying? So please support them. Tune in. You can listen on the iHeart app if you're not in LA.
Man, you can listen to them every day on the radio if you need to. By the way, gotta give Sallis his Clap It Up shirts. These are Laker theme editions.
Thank you so much.
Got him his 2XLs.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? You wear them with pride,
Will
man.
do.
Really appreciate you coming on to the show.
Will do.
Once again, man, I'm right here with my boy Sallis, with my big bro Sallis. You know what I'm saying? So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for this interview. You dropped a lot of game. And for those of you who've been questioning what happened to LA rap, he broke that down for you. So y'all make sure y'all stay tapped in. It's J.Brock, Clap It Up LA.
Thank you so much.
Bryan, Sallis, we out.